Hello, everybody. So today we're going to continue with lesson 10.4 Multi-Step Measurement Problems. And our essential question that we need to be able to answer by the end of the lesson is, how can you solve multi-step problems that include measurement conversions? Okay, so we're on page 439 of the 5th grade Go Math textbook. All right, so let's look at the unlock the problem. A leaky faucet in Jared's house drips 2 cups of water each day. After 2 weeks of dripping, the faucet is fixed. If it dripped the same amount each day, how many quarts of water dripped from Jared's leaky faucet in 2 weeks? Okay, so we know that it drips 2 cups of water per day. And that went on for 2 weeks. And we have to find out how many quarts. So we notice that we're measuring in cups, but the question wants us to answer in quarts. So we're going to have to convert from cups to quarts. All right, so use the steps to solve the multi-step problem. Record the information you are given. Okay, well, the faucet drips 2 cups of water each day, and the faucet drips for 2 weeks. All right, so now step 2, find the total amount of water dripped in 2 weeks. Well, since we're given the amount of water dripped each day, we need to convert 2 weeks into days and multiply. Okay, remember there's 7 days in a week, right? So 2 cups per day for 2 weeks. So how many days are in 2 weeks? 14 days, right? 2 times 7. So over those 2 weeks, or those 14 days, 28 cups of water drip. All right, so we're almost there. Now we need to change the cups into quarts. So remember, there are 2 cups in a pint, and there's 2 pints in a quart. So 28 cups, if we divide 28 cups by 2, that tells us that there's 14 pints. Okay, now we need to change from 14 pints to quarts. And there's 2 pints in every quart. So divide 14 by 2. So we have 7 quarts. All right. What if the faucet dripped for 4 weeks before it was fixed? How many quarts of water would have leaked? Well, 4 weeks is just twice as much as 2 weeks, right? So all we have to do is go 7 times 2. We're just doubling it. So that would have been 14 quarts of water. All right, let's look at another example on page 440. So a carton of large grade A eggs weighs about 1.5 pounds. If a carton holds a dozen eggs, how many ounces does each egg weigh? All right, well, so each egg is about 1.5 pounds. I'm sorry, a carton of large grade A eggs is about 1.5 pounds. There's a dozen eggs in a carton. So how much does each egg weigh? So we need to take this 1.5 pounds and divide it by the 12 eggs to figure out how much one egg would weigh. Now, it says in ounces. Well, we're given pounds, right? So we're going to have to change these pounds into ounces. So in ounces, find the weight of a carton of eggs. So 1 pound is 16 ounces. So what's the weight of the carton in ounces? It's going to be 1.5 times 16. Which would be 24 ounces. Now, you could have figured this out without having to multiply this, because 1 times 16 is 16. And what would be half of 16? 8. So 24. Okay. All right, so now the carton of eggs weigh about 24 ounces. 1 carton equals 12 eggs. So 24 divided by 12 would give us 2 ounces. All right, so now we're just going to practice that idea of multi-step problems with using conversion. So, number 1. After each soccer practice, Scott runs 4 sprints of 20 yards each. If he continues his routine, how many practices will it take for Scott to have sprinted a total of 2 miles combined? All right, so he does 4 sprints of 20 yards each every day after each practice. So after each practice, he does 4 times 20, which is the same as saying 4 times 2 tens, so 8 tens. So he uses 80 yards per practice. So there are 3,520 yards in 2 miles, because there are 1,760 yards in every mile. So we multiply that, we get 3,520. So we need to figure out how many 80s are in 3,520. So take your 3,520 and divide by 80. Well, we know we can't take 80 from 3. We can't take 80 from 35. I can take 80 from 352. I'm going to assume it's going to be about 4, because 5 times 80 is 400. So 4 times 80 is 320, and we'd have a remainder of 320. So another 4. So it's going to take 44 practices. All right, number 2. A worker at a mill is loading 5-pound bags of flour into boxes to deliver to a local warehouse. Each box holds 12 bags of flour. If the warehouse orders 3 tons of flour, how many boxes are needed to fulfill the order? All right, so there are 5-pound bags of flour. Every box has 12 bags. Well, how much does each box then hold? Well, let's figure it out. So we have 12 bags per box. Every bag is 5 pounds. Well, 5 times 12, that's 60. So every box holds 60 pounds of flour. We need to figure out how many boxes it will take to equal 3 tons. Well, what is 3 tons? Well, 3 tons equals 3 times 2,000 pounds. There's 2,000 pounds per ton. So 6,000 pounds. All right. Well, how many 60-pound boxes of flour are in 6,000? We know that if the dividend and the divisor are both in a 0, we can eliminate one of the zeros, because we divide it by 10. 6,000 divided by 10 is 600, and 60 divided by 10 is 6. All right, so how many 600s can be shared with 6? 100, right? 6 times 100 is 600. So they'd have to order 100, or they'd need 100 boxes to fill that order. And number 3, Corey brings 1-gallon jugs of juice to serve during parent night at his school. If the paper cups he is using for drinks can hold 8 fluid ounces, how many drinks can Corey serve for parent night? He brings 5 1-gallon jugs. So he has 5 gallons of juice, and each of the cups can hold 8 fluid ounces. How many cups or how many drinks can Corey serve? So we need to change 5 gallons into ounces. Well, first, let's go 5 gallons is how many quarts? Well, we know there's 4 quarts for every gallon. So 5 times 4. All right, so in 5 gallons, there's 20 quarts. Now we can change 20 quarts into pints. We know that there's 2 pints per quart. So 20 times 2. So we have 40 pints. We can then change 40 pints into cups. And we know that there's 2 cups per pint, so 80 cups. And finally, 80 cups can be turned into fluid ounces. There's 8 fluid ounces per cup, so 80 times 8. So 8 times 8 tens is 64 tens. So 640 fluid ounces are in 5 gallons. Every drink holds 8 ounces. So 640 divided by 8. So we can have 80 drinks. A science teacher needs to collect lake water for a lab she is teaching. The lab requires each student to use 4 fluid ounces of lake water. If 68 students are participating, how many pints of lake water will the teacher need to collect? All right, so we're given fluid ounces, but we need to put our answer in pints. Well, let's figure out how many fluid ounces there are first that are needed. And we can do that 68 times 4. There's 68 students. Every student needs 4 fluid ounces. So 8 times 4, 32. Regroup that as 3 tens and 2 ones. 4 times 6 tens is 24 tens, plus 3 more tens is 272. So we have 272 fluid ounces, and we want to change that into pints. Well, first let's change it into cups. Okay. So 272 divide by 8. Okay, because we're going from smaller to larger, so we're going to divide. 272 divided by 8 is 34. So 34 cups can now be changed into pints. We know that there's 2 cups per pint. So 34 divided by 2. I can take 1 2 from the 3 tens, with the remainder of 1. So we're going to change that for 10 ones and bring down the 4 ones. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So 14 pints. Number 5. A string of decorative lights is 28 feet long. The first light on the string is 16 inches from the plug. if the lights on the string are placed 4 inches apart, how many lights are on the string? And it says draw a picture to help you solve the problem. Well, we need to change 28 feet into inches first. Okay, so let's do that. 28 feet is how many inches? So feet are larger than inches, so we're going to be multiplying. And we know that there's 12 inches in every foot. So 28 times 12. All right, so we know that that's 336 inches. Now, the first light is 16 inches from the plug. So 16 inches. Well, that means we'd have to subtract 16 from 336. So we have 320 inches remaining. And we're going to divide that 320 inches by 4, because every 4 inches we're going to put another. All right. So after the first light, every 4 inches will be another light. So we have 320 inches left. So 320 divided by 4. I can't take 4 from 3, but I can from 32. 4 times 8 is 32. Bring down the 0 ones. And so we know that there's going to be 80 lights spread out among the 4 inches. But we still do have this first light. So 80 plus 1, there will be 81 lights. Okay, why isn't it just 80 lights? Because remember, the first light was 16 inches away. So at 16 inches, there's 1 light. There are 320 inches remaining. We're going to put a light every 4 inches of that 320. So that just in the 320, there would be 80, plus the one that's 16 inches away. So 81 lights. All right, number 6. When Elena's car moves forward such that each tire makes 1 full rotation, the car has traveled 72 inches. How many full rotations will the tires need to make for Elena's car to travel 10 yards? Well, so we need to change 10 yards into inches. Well, yards are bigger than inches, right? We know that there are 36 inches per yard. So we can take 10 yards and multiply by 36. So 360 inches. Every time she goes around 1 full turn, it's 72 inches. So let's take 360 and divide by 72. Well, I can't take 72 from 300s. I can't take 72 from 36 tens. I can take 72 from 361s. And I think that's going to be about 5, because 5 times 70 is 350. 5 times 2 is 10. Regroup as 1 10 and 0 ones. 5 times 7 is 35 tens, plus 1 more is 36. So it's going to make 5 full rotations to travel 10 yards. All right, number 7. A male African elephant weighs 7 tons. If a male African lion at the local zoo weighs 1/40th of the weight of the male African elephant, how many pounds does a lion weigh? Okay, so 1/40th of the weight of the male African elephant, and we need to know pounds. So first, let's change our 7 tons into pounds. Tons are bigger than pounds, and it takes 2,000 pounds equals 1 ton. So 7 times 2,000. So we'd have 14,000 pounds. The African lion is 1/40th of that amount. So we're going to take the 14,000 and divide by 40. All right, we see that the dividend and the divisor both end in a 0. So let's divide by 10 to reduce that. All right, now how many 14s can be grouped by 4s? 3, right? I can put 3 4s in 14. 3 times 4 is 12, with a remainder of 2. Bring down the 0. Okay. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And we're going to bring down the last 0. So 350 pounds. An African lion weighs about 350 pounds. All right, number 8. An office supply company is shipping a case of wooden pencils to a store. There are 64 boxes of pencils in the case. If each box of pencil weighs 2.5 ounces, what is the weight in pounds of the case of wooden pencils? So right now we're given the information in ounces. We're going to need to change that to pounds. But first, let's figure out how much 64 boxes weighs if each box is 2.5 ounces. So 5 times 4 is 20. Regroup that as 2 10s and 0 1s. 5 times 6 is 30 plus 2 more is 32. We're moving to the ones now. So 2 times 4 ones is 8 ones, and 2 times 6 tens is 12 tens. So 160 ounces is how many pounds? Well, there's 16 ounces per pound, right? So we're going from smaller to larger. So we're going to divide 160 by 16. Well, this is the same as saying 16 tens divided by 16. So that's 1 10. So 10 pounds. Number 9. A gallon of unleaded gasoline weighs about 6 pounds. About how many ounces does 1 quart of unleaded gasoline weigh? Hint, 1 quart is 1/4 of a gallon. All right. So if a gallon is 4 quarts, we're going to take 6 pounds. And how many quarts is that? Or how many ounces is that? Well, there's 16 ounces per pound. So 16 times 6, 96 ounces. Okay, so this 96 ounces, we're going to divide by 4. Because it's 1/4. So 96 divided by 4 is 24 ounces. All right, and number 10. At a local animal shelter, there are 12 small-sized dogs and 5 medium-sized dogs. Every day, the small-sized dogs are given 12.5 ounces of dry food, and the medium-sized dogs are given 18 ounces. How many pounds of dry food does the shelter serve in one day? All right. What are we asked to find? We're asked to find how many pounds of dry food the shelter serves in one day. What information do I need? I need to know that there's 12 small-sized dogs, and they get 12 and a half ounces each day, and that there's 5 medium-sized dogs, and they get 18 ounces per day. All right. And I also need to know that there's 16 ounces in a pound. All right, what conversion do we need to know? We're going to change from ounces to pounds. All right, so the steps we're going to use to solve the problem. Well, let's figure out how many ounces we're going to use for the small dogs. So 12 and a half times 12. So we're going to use 150 ounces for the small dogs. And the medium-sized dogs, 18 times 5, we're going to have 90 ounces. So 150 plus 90, 240 ounces per day. Well, there's 16 ounces per pound, right? So take the 240 and divide by 16. I can take 1/16 from 24 with a remainder of 8. Trade that for 81 and bring down the 0 ones. 16 times what is 80? 16 times 5 is 80. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3 more is 8. So 15. 15 pounds. The small dog eats a total of 150 ounces of dry food each day. The medium-sized dogs eat 90 ounces of dry food each day. The shelter serves 240 ounces or 15 pounds. And number 11. Gus is painting his house. He uses 2 quarts of paint per hour. He paints for 8 hours. How many gallons of paint did he use? Well, 8 times 2 is 16 quarts. We need to change the 16 quarts into gallons. Quarts are smaller than gallons, so we're going to divide. And we know that one gallon equals 4 quarts. So 16 divided by 4 would be 4 gallons. Okay. All right, so that's it for multi-step problems with conversion. So you'll next be working on mid-chapter checkpoint, and then lesson 5 we'll be working on metric measures. So until then, I will see you soon.